Hi, I'm Colin Edwards. I'm Chief Scientific Officer with patientMpower Limited, and I just want to give you a quick update on some of the things that we learned at the recent American Thoracic Society conference in San Diego. 4 years ago, in fact, at the same conference and at the same venue, the phase 3 data for the pirfenidone and nintedanib studies were presented in IPF, which was tremendously exciting because it was the start of drug therapies for IPF. Now, 4 years on, we've learned more about the best ways of using the established treatments in IPF, but also a lot of work has been done in developing new treatments. And there was some exciting data presented at the conference this year on some of the new treatments, and also in the setting of how are these treatments used with the current existing treatments, pirfenidone or nintedanib. There was the phase 2 data from Patraxin, which is the Prometric product, was presented, and there was these have shown promising data in the effect on change in FVC over time, and also of interest, really change in the 6-minute walking distance. What we're beginning to see now is that there needs to be a wide range of endpoints measured in trials, because it's really important not just to capture change in FVC, but to capture change in either something like exercise capacity or how the condition impacts on quality of life. Some data on the Prometric product, PBI 4050, that was presented. This has been presented previously at other conferences, but again, this is showing some promise, and in particular, it's showing promise when used in combination with one of the existing products, nintedanib. There now seems to be a pharmacokinetics interaction with pirfenidone, and I think this is highlighting that in the current era where there are a choice of 2 established treatments, it's now proving difficult for manufacturers of new treatments to design trials, because they have to take into account, can the new product be investigated with one of the existing treatments, or does the existing treatment have to be excluded, and what is the appropriate comparison group. Data on the Galapagos product, GLPG 1690, was also presented. Again, this showed good safety profile. It showed significant pharmacodynamics action, meaning the drug actually did what it was supposed to do in the body in terms of having an impact on the markers of condition, and it showed some promising data on change of spirometry as well. There was some data presented on Sanofi's product, SAR 156597. This really was disappointing, but this had been known before. There did not seem to be any impact on disease progression, although the drug does actually affect the marker of disease that it was intended to, but it doesn't seem to result in an observable clinical benefit, at least in the current trial designs. There was some posters presented on the Fibrogen product, pamrevlumab. Their main data had been presented earlier at the European Respiratory Society, but they had several posters, emphasizing some of the features that were presented and supporting some of the features presented in their previous presentation. At several points during discussions of the individual trials, and also in separate sessions on trial design, it's very clear now that a lot of focus has been given to what's the best way to design trials of treatments in IPF today. Until 4 years ago, there were no effective treatments, so it was acceptable to have a placebo design, or a placebo arm, I should say, in all of the clinical trials. This is no longer not really possible, unless for some reason people cannot tolerate a pirfenidone or nintedanib. However, it's important to point out that approximately 30% of IPF patients are not yet on active antifibrotic therapy. But there was a very interesting session on the very last day on clinical trial design and what's the best way to design trials on IPF. And so far the endpoints that have been looked at have been change in spirometry, particularly FVC, looking at safety endpoints, adverse events and side effects. Some trials have looked at high resolution CT scans, and quality of life is an important endpoint as well. But there does to date at least seem to be a poor correlation between change in FVC and endpoints which reflect how the patient feels, how they function in their daily life or their survival. So there's a lot of discussion now on looking at alternative endpoints for studies in addition to FVC, particularly endpoints which measure patients' function or how they feel. And we saw in one of the studies that 6-minute walking distance was positively impacted by a new treatment as well as FVC. This isn't always seen, but it is interesting that in some studies at least there's beginning to be focus on the functional endpoints and not just the FVC. As I've mentioned, it's now going to be more challenging for manufacturers of new treatments to design their trials because the possible designs are going to be the new treatment compared with either nintedanib or pirfenidone, or possibly the new treatment compared with the new treatment added to pirfenidone or nintedanib. And in rare cases only will it be possible to look at new treatments versus placebo. In summary, while there were no huge big trials presented, there were a lot of important phase 2 trials presented, and I think we can be confident that there will be some significant phase 3 trials starting sometime in the next 12, either later this year or early next year, particularly with the Fibrogen, Prometric, Galapagos, Biogen and Prometric have all presented significant phase 2 studies in the last 12 months or so, and this is promising for bringing these studies forward to phase 3. So I think we can expect there will be significant phase 3 trials going forward, but I think we can expect these trials will be more complex than before, cannot just compare with placebo group, and there's a very strong need to collect a holistic view of what the patient is going through. So in other words, to focus on subjective quality of life and impact of disease on the patient in addition to the spirometry endpoint, which is classically used to determine progression of disease. So in summary, there was lots of new studies presented, all at phase 2 level at this stage, but I think it's promising going forward that there will be phase 3 trials in the next while, which will hopefully lead to significant advances in the treatment of the condition. That's all for now. We had a very good meeting, and thanks for listening.